Erica stood in the backyard of her new suburban home, the sun warming her skin as laughter and the smell of grilled burgers filled the air. She and her husband, Mark, had been married for 8 years, and their new house felt like a fresh start, a place with a big lawn perfect for lazy mornings and starry nights. Mark, a charming sales manager with a smile that could win anyone over, was in his element, joking with his coworkers at the picnic they were hosting. But as Erica watched him, a heavy feeling settled in her chest. Their guest's eyes seemed to linger on her, and a strange tension hung in the air, like something was about to snap. When Mark's voice suddenly cut through the chatter with sharp, careless words, Erica's heart sank. It wasn't just what he said, it was the way he said it, like a jab that left her dizzy. In that moment, everything she thought she knew about their life together started to unravel. Holding a small, shiny key in her hand, Erica felt its weight, as if it could unlock something far bigger than a door, maybe a truth she wasn't ready to face. The house, the marriage, the perfect life they'd built, it all seemed to teeter on the edge of something dangerous, and she couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. Erica stood in the backyard of her new home, the kind of place she and Mark, her husband of 8 years, had always dreamed of. The sun glowed soft and warm, casting long shadows across the green lawn where Mark's coworkers mingled, their laughter mixing with the smoky scent of burgers sizzling on the new grill. Mark, a sales manager with a charm that could light up any room, was in his element, joking and grinning as he flipped steaks. Their new house felt like a promise, a sprawling yard perfect for summer evenings, tall trees hiding them from the world, and the fresh smell of paint still lingering inside. Erica loved the quiet moments, like sipping coffee by the kitchen window as sunlight spilled across the floor, or catching Mark's warm smile when he held up an old photo of them. But at this picnic, something felt off. The way the guest's eyes followed her made her skin prickle, and a strange heaviness hung in the air. Then Mark's voice sliced through the chatter, sharp and careless, his words hitting her like a cold wave. Her fingers tightened around a small key in her hand, its metal cool against her skin. It wasn't just a key to their house, it felt like it could unlock something hidden, something dangerous. As her heart raced, Erica sensed their perfect life teetering, like a crack forming in the foundation of everything they'd built. Whatever Mark meant by those words, she knew things were about to change, and the truth might be more than she could handle. Erica moved through the picnic, the late afternoon sun painting the grass in soft shades of golden green. The air carried the rich smell of burgers sizzling on Mark's beloved grill, mixed with the faint sweetness of flowers blooming nearby. About a dozen of his coworkers filled the yard, their crisp shirts and shiny watches catching the fading light, their confident chatter buzzing like static. Mark was in his element, laughing and playing the perfect host, while Erica felt out of place, her pale yellow sundress suddenly feeling too thin under their sharp, lingering stares. She kept busy, arranging trays of watermelon slices, potato salad, and tiny sandwiches she'd spent all morning preparing, trying to ignore the knot in her stomach. Then there was Greg, one of Mark's colleagues, whose easy charm and sly winks made her cheeks warm. When he said goodbye, his hand brushed hers a little too long, his eyes holding hers just past polite, leaving her caught between flattery and unease. She brushed it off as her own nerves, unused to the attention Mark soaked up so naturally. But as the day wore on, those glances, especially Greg's, felt like they saw too much, peeling back the grill's faint crackle and a rustling breeze through the tall trees were the only sounds, the swaying branches seeming to whisper a warning. The ground felt unsteady beneath her, mirroring the chaos in her mind. Forcing herself to look away from Greg's intense gaze and David's quiet focus, Erica found Mark again, his earlier words still echoing, threatening to unravel everything she thought she knew about their life together. Erica stood frozen, her heart pounding as anger toward Mark's detachment burned through her. But beneath that rage, something darker stirred, a sharp, electric thrill at being wanted so openly by Greg and David, their bold gazes pulling her in despite herself. She knew it was wrong, but the feeling was undeniable, tugging at her willpower. Memories flashed unbidden, her and Mark, years ago, planting an apple tree in this same yard, his hands dirty as he packed the soil, his smile warm and full of promise. "This is for us, Erica," he'd said, "for our future, for days we'll sit under its shade." That moment had felt like a vow carved into the earth. Now, standing in the same yard, caught in a storm of emotions, she let go. Greg's hands found her waist, strong and insistent, pulling her closer as her breath hitched. David was there too, his presence quieter but intense, his breath warm against her neck, sending shivers down her spine. The other guests' stares mixed awe and hunger, as if she were something forbidden suddenly within reach. The cool, damp grass under her bare feet anchored her, but her mind spun wildly. The evening's golden light cast long shadows, dancing with the chaos around her. A neighbor's lawnmower hummed faintly, its normalcy clashing with the reckless edge of the moment. The world beyond the yard went on, unaware of the lines being crossed. Shame clawed at her, sharp and bitter, as she thought of Mark, their vows, their life together. But there was also a wild rush, a reckless thrill burning through her, drowning out the guilt just long enough to keep her there. And beneath it all, a strange, heady sense of power surged, intoxicating and dangerous, as she stood caught in the heat of it all. Erica felt the weight of every eye on her, their unspoken hunger making her the center of the picnic's charged atmosphere. It stirred something unfamiliar inside her, a rush she hadn't known she craved. Her heart pounded, her skin warm under Greg's tightening grip and David's quiet, pressing presence, their touches amplified by the stares of Mark's coworkers. She let herself get lost in it, time and reason slipping away, consumed by the raw intensity of the moment. But even in that haze, her eyes kept finding Mark. He sat under the tree, still and silent, his beer clutched like a lifeline. His face was unreadable, cold, distant, maybe hiding pain or anger, or something darker she couldn't name. That blank stare cut deeper than any words, a silent betrayal that stung worse than his earlier sharp comment. How could he just sit there, watching Greg and David close in, doing nothing to stop it? Anger surged again, sharp and raw, twisting with her guilt, her confusion, and the undeniable thrill coursing through her. She hated herself for it, but she couldn't deny it. She was caught up in the moment, drawn to the forbidden pull of being wanted, even as her marriage seemed to fracture under the weight of Mark's inaction. Erica stood in the yard, her pulse still racing from the forbidden rush of the moment, every touch and glance making her feel alive in a way she hadn't in years. But as the intensity faded, a heavy stillness settled over her like a fog. Greg and David stepped back, their movements stiff and awkward, adjusting their shirts and avoiding her eyes. The air felt thick, charged with the weight of what had just happened. Her sundress clung to her skin, rumpled and too revealing now, as her chest heaved with unsteady breaths. Her legs shook, and she felt both freed and empty, as if she'd spilled everything out and left nothing behind. The thrill lingered faintly, but it was drowned out by a growing hollowness, a sinking realization of the lines she'd crossed, lines she could never uncross. The yard was eerily quiet now, the distant hum of a lawnmower had stopped, and even the breeze seemed to pause. Twilight had deepened, casting long, dark shadows that seemed to swallow the scene. Stumbling away from the center of the yard, her bare feet unsteady on the cool grass, Erica felt the weight of what she'd done pressing down on her. The lingering stares and heavy silence clung to her like damp air, urging her to escape, to find some way to outrun the shame and confusion now flooding her heart. This rewrite captures the aftermath of Erica's actions, her mix of fleeting exhilaration and growing regret, and the oppressive atmosphere, while keeping the language accessible and the imagery vivid but original. If you have more of the transcript or want me to expand further, focus on specific elements, e.g., Erica's regret, Mark's reaction, or the aftermath's impact, or adjust the tone, e.g., more somber or introspective, please let me know. Erica's heart pounded, its frantic rhythm loud in her ears as she stumbled toward the house, the patio door ahead like a refuge she wasn't sure she deserved. The evening's heat still clung to her skin, a sticky reminder of the reckless fire she'd let burn out in the yard. Her cheeks burned, her hands trembled, and as she pushed into the kitchen, the cool air hit her like a shock, sharp against the oppressive warmth outside. She leaned against the counter, struggling to catch her breath, the dim kitchen lit only by the fading sunlight slipping through the sink window. Moving slowly, as if she could outrun her racing thoughts, she turned on the faucet, letting cold water pour over her hands and splashing it onto her face. The icy sting was a desperate attempt to wash away the shame, the lingering thrill still pulsing faintly in her veins. Water dripped down her face, catching in her lashes, and she caught her reflection in the dark window. Her eyes looked empty, haunted, like they belonged to someone she didn't know. Who was this woman staring back? What had she let herself become in one reckless evening? The house was eerily quiet, a heavy stillness that felt like it was waiting for something to break. Outside, the faint rustle of leaves and the distant hum of the world carried on, untouched by the chaos she'd unleashed. Inside, there was only the drip of the faucet she hadn't fully shut off and the thud of her own heartbeat. She stood frozen at the sink, gripping the counter's edge, until the creak of the patio door behind her snapped her out of it. Her body tensed, every muscle tightening, as heavy footsteps crossed into the kitchen. She couldn't bring herself to turn around. Erica stood at the kitchen sink, her hands gripping the counter, unable to turn and face the heavy presence she knew was Mark's. It rolled in like a storm, silent but overwhelming, filling the space between them. No words came, just the sound of the fridge opening, the clink of a beer bottle, the hiss of its cap, and the scrape of a chair as he sat at the table behind her. She didn't need to look to see him. His broad shoulders slouched, head bowed, clutching the beer like it was all that held him together. The silence stretched, thick and heavy, a wall neither of them would breach. She wanted to scream, to demand why he'd sat under that tree and done nothing, why he'd watched with that cold, empty stare that hurt more than anything he could have said. But the words stuck in her throat, sharp and bitter, and she swallowed them. They never spoke of that night. Not then, not in the days after, not ever. It was as if they'd silently agreed to bury it, to cover the cracks with routine. Life went on, but it felt hollow. More barbecues filled their yard, more laughter rang through the house, more forced smiles greeted neighbors with their casseroles and chatter. Mark worked the grill, but his movements lacked the spark he once had, each flip of a burger mechanical. Erica set out food, poured drinks, and made small talk, but the weight of that evening lingered, an unspoken truth that had shifted their world forever. As Erica and Mark's story fades into the quiet of their strained routine, we're left with the weight of choices made and truths left unspoken. That evening in their yard changed everything, yet nothing was said, leaving a fracture that lingers beneath their everyday lives. This tale reminds us how quickly moments can shift the ground under a relationship, how desire and betrayal can intertwine, and how silence can speak louder than words. Thank you for joining us in exploring this raw, human story, one that asks us to reflect on love, trust, and the consequences of crossing lines. We hope it leaves you thinking about the complexities of the heart and the choices that shape our lives. A heartfelt thank you to everyone who helped bring this story to life. To the writers and creators who poured their talent into crafting this emotional journey, your work made Erica and Mark's world vivid and real. To the listeners and readers who followed along, your engagement and thoughtfulness inspire us to keep telling stories that resonate. We're grateful for the community that supports these narratives, sparking conversations about the messy, beautiful truths of human relationships. Your time and attention mean the world to us. Disclaimer: this story is a work of fiction, created for entertainment and reflection. Any resemblance to real people, events, or situations is purely coincidental. The narrative explores sensitive themes, including infidelity and emotional conflict, which may evoke strong feelings. We encourage readers to approach it with an open mind and to seek support if these topics feel personal or challenging. The views and actions depicted are those of the characters and do not reflect the opinions or endorsements of the creators or platform.